What's good, y'all? It's your boy Dave B. You watching Beyond Astrology, and I told y'all I was gonna start doing. Well, somebody has suggested in the comments that I start doing like a monthly for all the signs. So I'm gonna go ahead and honor my promise. I was like, that's a good idea. And what better way to start than even though it ain't really the new year, but the start of the Gregorian calendar, 2026, the top of 2026. We're gonna go ahead and use January as the guinea pig. We're gonna see how it feels, see how I feel about it. If I like it and y'all like it, y'all responding to it well, then we're gonna keep on doing this. So first I'm gonna start off with Aries, you know what I'm saying? Let's just go ahead and get y'all going. So this is important too. I'm gonna be doing these based on your rising sign. So if you're Aries rising, the reason I'm trying to do it, I want to do this with the rising signs is because a lot of times, some astrologers would just be like, "Oh damn, I didn't turn my light on. Hold on." Well, is it important? It might not be important for this one, but for the most part, a lot of astrologers would be like, they'll do it based on your sun sign, or they won't really tell y'all. I like to do it based upon a rising sign because that lets you know what house alignments, like, the sun will be, what house the sun will be traveling through, which to me is, you know, very important. You know what I'm saying? That helps you understand the overall focus because wherever the sun is at transit wise is the focus that you are, what you're focused on during that month and that time. So in the month of January, we go through both Capricorn and Aquarius. Now we're like, well, it's the top of January still, so it'll still apply for this. But, we're like 15 degrees into Capricorn by this time, I believe, or like halfway, a little over halfway, right? And of course, like depending on the degree of your house, this might not be exactly the house it's in, but you could still apply this in whatever is next or the different sign. Like you can kind of like map out like, oh, okay, you can listen to a combination of different readings in order to get you a full picture if you got like overlapping houses or something to that degree. But yeah, let's get right into it. And that's more of an advanced astrology concept. I don't really know. I'm still growing my audience and stuff on this channel. So I don't know who knows what, but just rock with me. And if you got questions, of course, leave them in the comments and things like that. And then also, I'm available for one-on-one readings. I do readings based upon what your needs are. So let me know what your needs are. Just send me an email at davebeyond95@gmail.com with astrology help in the subject line, and then whatever your question is, and I can get right back to you. Whether it's for a reading, to book a reading, or just general questions, or leave them in the comments. Anyway, yeah, let's jump right into it. So, Aries, y'all gonna be dealing with the sun going through your 10th house and then your 11th house. So this month of January's theme is about it is about taking care of business. I think January, so energetically, right? We are, even though the calendar New Year starts, we're not quite fully in the new year yet. There's like different phases that lead up to the actual new year that will start to feel like, because it really don't start till your season. Once we hit Aries season, that's when you're gonna start to feel that full I guess burst of energy where it's like, okay, yeah, let's actually initiate stuff. Let's actually push things out. But during this period of time, we're still in the winter time. And not only the winter, but we're in the initiation of the winter. So it's like the winter is all about death and transformation. So you're gonna feel more inclined to initiate the process of putting death to something. A lot of people think, oh, I'm going to start doing different shit in the beginning of the year. And it's like, that's that. A lot of times you'll burn yourself out if you go too hard in the first couple weeks of the year. You'll just burn yourself out, or you'll get discouraged in a way that will make it even harder to pick it back up. And sometimes psychologically, you'll be hard on yourself, heavy on yourself to the point where, again, you lose momentum before you even start the race. What's a better idea to do is understand it as you're clearing out space to make room for the new. This is almost like when people think of spring cleaning should really be considered winter cleaning. Like whatever you're considering as a resolution to resolve something means to clean it out. Like that's more of the appropriate energy for the wintertime, January all the way up until March. Capricorn season in particular is about getting serious and also like consolidating resources. Like that's what Capricorn is to me. Capricorn is about organizing and consolidating resources. So right now, as an Aries individual, that might be a little difficult for you, right? Because that's a natural square. Your energy, and again, I'm doing this based on rising sign, but you can apply your sun sign. You can, these readings are interchangeable like that, but I'm doing them based on rising sign. So like for as an Aries rising, depending on what your sun is, that's going to determine kind of like your attitude or perspective or your attitude towards this type of energy. But as an Aries rising, no matter what, you need to kind of be considering, okay, this is energy going on in my 10th house space. So approaching that 10th house space, this is going to be a little bit uncomfortable for you, right? Because this is going to be you having to start to adjust your focus on things that are a lot more about the practicality of it, right? So you want to make sure that you are taking different things into consideration, getting more serious about again, like Capricorn season is really about blueprinting. So a lot of times as an Aries rising, you might be more inclined to want to do things off the cuff, especially if you got a fire sun or like even a water sun. You might not want to consider and think like, oh, you might not want to plan things out. You might not want to think 3 months ahead, let alone a year ahead. But this is the time to kind of maybe consider like if you were to take whatever thing you're passionate about serious, how far could it really go? You know what I'm saying? You never really know. So like this is like planning. Let's get some structure in. Let's figure out, whenever we're going through a 10th house space though, you might feel like a lot of attention is on you. Now, depending on your attitude towards that, that'll determine maybe how you move. Try not to be too concerned about how you look during a certain time. Be more focused on what you want. Like I kind of look at the 10th house, right? I always say that the ninth house is lifestyle, the 10th house is the construction or the responsibilities of that lifestyle. So you may be looking at your responsibilities at the moment and kind of going back and forth in your head on deciding whether or not you want to go forward with it. And that's kind of what I mean by this being a little bit of a challenge because you might be starting to get confronted with the reality of different choices that you made previously or what you are maybe setting yourself up to experience for the rest of the year. So like during January, you want to really consider if these responsibilities that you're about to take on are the ones that you're comfortable kind of going through the frustration and the growing pains with. Like it's not all fun and games all the time. And you might start to feel that way. You might start to feel like, damn, I started doing something. Now I'm starting to become responsible for it. And like this year for you, Saturn is going to be going through your first house. So you're going to start to feel that responsibility energy pretty soon. You know what I'm saying? Like Neptune is already by the end of this month approaching your energy, your first house too. It might already be in your first house. So, there's things that are like, it's almost like on a high octave, you are in a position to really take control of your personal dreams. But see, it's important Neptune is like belief systems, dreams, and things like that. You want to make sure these dreams are yours though. And the way you can tell is by paying attention to the responsibilities coming into your awareness and then asking yourself, kind of going back and forth and being like, okay, am I okay with this responsibility? Not necessarily does it feel good because it's not going to feel good all the time. Responsibilities are difficult. They require work. They require maturity. Now, Aries get the kind of like rep to be like, oh, you're childish or you're early in the zodiac and stuff like that. I don't necessarily subscribe to that. Like I think you could very well be mature as an Aries, especially as on the rising sign, but your personality, again, it's not so much the immaturity, it's just you like the freedom of being able to pivot when you want to pivot. And this year the next couple years is not gonna be like that for Aries. Aries are gonna have a lot more responsibility because with Saturn transiting through your sign, you're gonna have to, especially like for Aries rising, y'all, this is y'all first house. So you're gonna see a lot of personal changes and personal things become kind of like, you can't just let it fly. You can't just pick up something new and drop it. You're gonna have to be kind of like on it. You're gonna have to be present with that thing that's presenting itself as a responsibility for you. And this month is gonna be kind of like the first introduction to that, but it's gonna start with Neptune. It's really gonna kick in March, and that's when you're gonna start to feel it, or maybe even like late or mid February. So next month, you're gonna start to actually physically be confronted with those responsibilities. Right now, it's kind of like it may be playing like a little bit of an illusion game with you. But how you keep yourself focused this month is by considering as different responsibilities like kind of creep up and present themselves, think in the back of your head, like, is this something I can keep up with? Is this something I'm going to want to be consistent with, even if it's frustrating and things like that? And see, you have to also decide, because being that Neptune is going to be in the mix too, you're going to have to really grow up if you want to experience like your dream is not, sometimes we get caught up in our dreams and the way they feel when we're most excited about them. But it's kind of like, be careful what you ask for. When dreams come true, the pleasure of them is usually what we fantasize about, but the reality of them is also something that we have to respect and honor and participate with. So, you know, just because it's a beautiful dream does not mean it's not going to come with its fair share of work and responsibility. So this is kind of like a sobering time. You want to kind of sober your mind up and prepare yourself for what the responsibility entails. And now, if you've been kind of on the low octave of this month, this is going to be you finding all kinds of ways to try to, like, how they say, get your cake and eat it too. Like, you're going to try to finesse, get what you want out of something, but not actually be responsible for it. And you might get away with it at first, but it'll come back to bite you. Because what you take on, people don't realize, like, if you take the good, you're going to have to take the bad too, and the bad doesn't necessarily have to be bad. It's just the challenges and the balance of whatever is pleasurable to you. You get what I'm saying? But it take maturity to understand that and to approach that appropriately. Now, midway, well, in on the 20th, that's when, or the 19th to 20th, that's when it'll shift going into your 11th house, if depending on your house degrees. But going into the 11th house is you having to come into the public arena or interact with the public, your network, or friends and associates in some kind of way. So this goes back to what I was saying, like this month, you want to make sure that what you are taking on as a responsibility that's enticing you as a dream, you want to make sure that those things are what you actually want to be associated with, because you're going to start to, as you, whatever space, or like, because it depends on what you're into, right? And this is why, like, when we can get more in depth during a personal reading to know exactly what it is that you're doing, because the sun in the 10th house is going to bring a lot of like exposure to you. But it's also going to make you see a lot of the responsibilities for things. Going into the 11th house, though, it's going to start to whatever you become known for, because of how you've consistently entertained and how you've consistently participated with those responsibilities, or whatever is being, whatever you're broadcasting through what you do, that starts to become the type of company you keep. So you're going to attract different people who, on the negative end, might be trying to take what you've built, might be trying to take what you built, or on the positive end, people see what you're doing and they want to help and contribute to what you've built. But you have to have the discernment to know which is which. And if you ain't on your shit, if you're not actually, again, that's why it's like kind of like sober mind. You want to make sure that you're paying close attention to who's coming around whenever you get a win, and who's kind of turning their back, or who's, you want to kind of keep your ear to the streets too. That's another thing that's kind of coming up for me too. Coming up for y'all message is like ear to the streets. Y'all want to make sure that you're not just entertaining any and everybody. You want to make sure you're vetting who's coming around going into the Aquarius season. You want to make sure you're vetting who's around you and why they're around you and things like that, because people will try to trick you out your position or take what you got and try to repurpose it and make it something that they got. This is still, even though we're out of the holiday season, this is still kind of like a season where people are trying to get over and trying to get like a head start on, people are feeling some kind of way about maybe what they couldn't provide during the holidays. So people are still on that type of time. Depending on who you are too and what kind of karma you've been generating for yourself based upon how you acting in the world, you just want to keep in mind, especially right now, if you're winning, and be very mindful too, because 2026 is the year 10, or a year one. It's also the year of the fire horse. So what we're gonna start to see is right when we get to February and we get around the Chinese the first Chinese New Year, which is followed by like the first it's like the new moon in Aquarius. Around that time, again, new moon in Aquarius is going to happen in your 11th house around your network. So you're entering in this new energy of fire horse, which is, if you think of like horse races and things like that, like I'm gonna be studying about that because, all of that gives you an idea of kind of like the energy that we're going into, right? Everything is, you could study pieces of everything and kind of learn more about what we're experiencing. But specifically, you know, when you think of like a show horse or like, like horses are like kind of a sign of opulence. And like, like it's very expensive to horse race and things like that. Like to keep a horse, to first of all purchase a horse, then the upkeep of a horse. Like that's a very upper class kind of like thing. Not to say you have to be upper class to experience it and do it, but to actually own horses and stuff, people would tell you it's an expensive hobby. And so when I think of Fire Horse Year, I think of like people, you're either focused on your race and running your race, or you are constantly looking at what other people got and people constantly checking and see what you got and people trying to trick you out of your position, people trying to find ways that they can, sabotage you because you got a purpose and because you got a mission and stuff like that. So if you're a person with a purpose, a mission, and you're trying to focus, be mindful of distractions, people trying to take what you got, people spying on what you got, people eyeing and sizing you up and trying to get in your head before the race. And again, the real race will start in like March, where we hit Aries season, and it's time to experiment. It's time to start new things. Right now, though, people are kind of just vetting out the competition. So you don't want to make yourself so open and exposed to where people can vet and read you before the start of the race. You also don't want to get too excited and try to do something before the preparation. So could take that into consideration too. That's why right now, best thing you could do as an Aries rising is start to prepare yourself and start to structure your mind around what you want the rest of your year to look like, what you want your jump start to look like, what you want your March. So start with the first 3 months, and then but be considering what the long-term goal of that is. And then during Aquarius season, if you do this properly, you'll be able to properly vet your new circle, new associates, and then you'll be able to start to have better conversations, because the people who are going to be naturally attracted to you, you're still going to attract people on bullshit, no matter how, especially if you on your purpose, you're going to attract people on bullshit. But again, vetting, discernment, and with that proper processes in place, you're gonna know, you're gonna be able to, by the full moon, the Leo full moon, it's gonna be open, like it's gonna be exposing who's supposed to be in your circle and who not. And you're gonna be, see, on a low octave, this is a person who, because they weren't properly vetting, they're blinded by their ego or whatever they want to be seen as. So they got a bunch of people who are praising them, but on some bullshit. Versus you do this on a high octave level, you properly vet, you focus on your race, and you don't kind of take the bait of getting higher validation. You're gonna be able to fully see who's supposed to be around you and who not. And then that's when you can actually have your circle and be connected properly, right? But you can only do this if you're participating with life. So keep that in mind as well. You want to still participate. You want to get in the mix. You don't want to just hide away in the corner and expect you to have the right answers. That's not going to work. We got to this is a masculine type energy year. So you got to get in the mix. Yeah, whether you're a female or a male in general, you got to get in the mix. Um, Depending on what your goals are and things like that, you don't have this is not about just trying to be whatever you're doing, it doesn't have to be something that's so grand and stuff. This could be very simple things. It's just how you should be living it, how you should be operating in your day to day. But yeah, that's what your month of January and a little bit of your February gonna look like. And we'll be right back next month with continuing on with these um readings, what I'm saying, depending on the reaction. If y'all fucking with it, let me know in the comments. Hopefully this was helpful. Shout out to all my Aries. I love y'all. And yeah, let's have a wonderful 2026 and a wonderful January. All right, y'all. Peace.